Welcome to Reparenting Radio. I'm Lisa Watson, architect of human transformation. This is a space for leaders, parents, and anyone ready to break old patterns, regulate their nervous system, and show up in their life with clarity and self-trust. If you're ready to change the way you lead, love, and live, you're in the right place. Let's begin. Welcome back to Reparenting Radio. Today, I want to talk about authenticity, because just be your authentic self has really become one of those phrases that seems to be everywhere right now. And on the surface, it sounds pretty freeing and very empowering, but for a lot of people, it can actually create pressure. It becomes one more thing that you could potentially get wrong, or one more way to just beat yourself up when you don't feel like you're doing things right. And that's not the result that we're looking for here. It can feel as if, I think sometimes you think be your authentic self is like there's this single, fully formed, real you, someone, that you're supposed to locate or unlock and become easily and confidently and just all at once. And if you haven't found her yet, sometimes you think that something maybe must be wrong. But this isn't how it works. And it's not how the nervous system works. Your real self, your true authentic self, doesn't arrive in one dramatic moment. It emerges in layers, just like healing, like, peeling back the layers of an onion or an artichoke. And as your system becomes safe enough to hold more truth, more presence, and more responsibility, then authenticity can naturally start to unfold. Because authenticity isn't a personality trait. It's a developmental process that brings you home to the self that was there before shame, social conditioning, and domestication got its grips on you, like it did everyone else. So today, I want to walk you through what I see as the 7 levels of authenticity. Not as a hierarchy, but as stages of integration. You don't graduate from them. You move through them. And sometimes we take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, depending on our readiness and feeling of safety and our nervous system regulation. One of the reasons that finding our authenticity, our true authentic self, can feel so confusing and challenging is because we're often told to express our truth before our system is ready to accept and stabilize our truth. We're literally going against conditioning and programming, so it feels wrong. So we may end up, at the beginning of this process, we may end up oversharing everything or telling our truth with intensity and emotion and urgency, kind of like a teenager would. And sometimes that's necessary and it may be the best approach, but sometimes it's also simply just part of the process. It's part of peeling back those layers. Expression is not the same thing as embodiment. Truth that isn't integrated often comes out very charged. It can come out loud. It comes out needing something from the listener, like validation or agreement. We need relief. That doesn't mean that our truth is wrong. It just means that we're still in the early stages of finding and expressing our truth and our authenticity. We're still on the hunt for it. But as regulation increases, truth will begin to change its tone. It begins to need fewer words, less defense, less explanation. And that's where these 7 layers come in. So let's go over the 7 layers of authenticity. Level 1 is the performative honesty. This is where truth is still tied to identity. We say things like, this is just who I am, or I'm just being real, or I'm not going to censor myself. This is kind of the teenager level, which is nothing wrong with it. No judgment there. But we're growing, we're learning, we're taking our truth back, and it feels charged. This is the stage where we begin to stop abandoning ourselves. But the truth here still needs to be seen, heard, and validated. We still feel that need. Something on the outside we have to feel like heard us. Our truth landed. It has to be bold. It has to be loud. We're trying to get a point across. The second layer is emotional honesty. Here's where we start naming how we feel. Like, I'm angry or sad. We express that we're fearful or we're resentful. Maybe we're disappointed. This is a critical stage. This is a very healthy and a very needed stage, because feelings that aren't named, they do tend to run our behavior. But emotional honesty without regulation can feel explosive. Like everything is urgent. Like everything needs to be expressed right now. And this is where people may say, I'm just being honest about how I feel. But their nervous system is still leading the conversation. It's not coming from a regulated, stable, grounded, and integrated place, which is all part of the process. And, nothing wrong with it, of course. It's just peeling back the layers. And then next we move to level 3. Level 3 is where we move into narrative honesty. At this level, people start to tell their story. Maybe we start explaining what happened, what it is that hurt us, why it is that we are the way that we are. This is where meaning is made. And again, a very necessary step, because stories organize our experience, but stories can also become our identity. And sometimes people get a little stuck here in stage 3, repeating the same truths without truly integrating them. The story may be accurate, but it's still doing the talking. Integration and stability haven't really taken hold yet. We're still searching for our truth. We're still listening and kind of mining for it a bit. And then we move on to level 4. Level 4 is somatic honesty. This is where our body starts to enter the conversation. The body stops pretending, and it reveals where the tension, the collapse, the activation, or the shutdown really is. At this level, authenticity starts to become a little quieter, less conceptual, and it's more felt. You might not have words yet, but your body knows what's true. This is often where people start to slow down. They pause more. They go inward. They cancel plans. They maybe go into a little bit of a cocoon phase. They start to change or enforce their boundaries, not because they're avoiding anything at all, but because the body is starting to recalibrate. They're taking a step back. They've been blasting out the truth, and now they're starting to integrate it and hear it and feel it on a physical level. And then there's level 5. This is relational honesty. Here's where things really begin to shift. At this level, truth no longer needs to be explained, to be held. You start to say less, but what you say, it lands, at least for you. Your boundaries become cleaner. Your yeses and your nos are very clear. And you stop performing honesty anymore. You just begin living it. Embodiment is beginning to take hold now at level 5. And at this stage, people may feel you before they really understand you. Like they get that you mean what you mean, but they may not understand it, and you're not over-explaining anymore. And then there's level 6. Level 6 is integrated honesty. This is where your truth is told without charge. You've moved out of the 17-year-old phase. There's less urgency. There's less defensiveness. There's no more need to convince. You can speak, you cannot speak, and you remained aligned either way. At this level, authenticity feels stable. It feels embodied, and it starts to feel ordinary and normal for your nervous system. You're not trying so much anymore to be real or to be authentic. You just are. You're now just being. And then we move into the final stage, which is stage 7. And this is the silent truth. This is the level that is often most misunderstood because we've been conditioned to believe that silence is avoidance. But it's not. And it's not suppression. It's not shrinking. At this level, silence is capacity. You don't speak because you need to anymore, or because you're afraid of any reaction or emotions on anyone else's part. But you speak because truth has already landed in your body. It becomes something you can't avoid anymore. You just must be your authentic self. Nothing else feels right. So presence starts to replace explanation. And this is where leadership truly lives. This is when you know that the leader is present in your avatar. This is where regulation speaks louder than words. And one of the clearest signs of nervous system maturity is this. You speak less. Not because you don't care, not because you're avoiding or you're resentful, but because you trust yourself to remain present without managing the room or other people. And silence allows that integration. It allows that discernment and choice. It's the unregulated system that needs to fill space. When we're unregulated, we need to explain. We need to justify. We need to narrate. We need to be validated. We need to be seen. We need to be heard. But a regulated nervous system doesn't need that. It doesn't need to rush to the truth. The truth simply is present. We're able to just let things settle. And this stage, though, it can often be a time when people begin to wonder, am I starting to abandon myself again? Like, I just don't feel the need to explain myself anymore. But no, it's not abandonment. This isn't the self-betrayal stage. This is self-trust trust embodied. And silence at this stage is not avoidance. It's full integration. You're no longer outsourcing your truth to the moment. You're holding it. Your truth is embodied. Your truth is stabilized. It feels clean. And you no longer need validation. You no longer need agreement. And you really don't even need your truth to land anymore. So if you're listening to this and you're wondering, where am I in the process? I want you to know this. There isn't a right stage to be in, but there are stages. And the later stages, they don't erase the earlier ones. They integrate them. They're all necessary. The question isn't, am I being authentic enough? The question is, what level of truth and authenticity can my nervous system hold right now? And can I honor that without forcing the next stage to arrive early? Your authentic self is not late. It's emerging right on time. So trust yourself and be patient as you move through the process of coming home to your authentic self. Thank you for joining me. I will see you next week. Thank you for listening to Reparenting Radio. If today's conversation supported you, take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who knows they were made for more than the patterns that they inherited. If you're ready for serious inner work and real transformation, personally or professionally, you can explore my leadership pathways at lisa-watson.com. And if you're raising little ones alongside your own healing, you'll find my children's books at awakentheone.org. Until next time, stay grounded, stay open, and keep reparenting the parts of you that are ready to come home to their authenticity.